So I am here with Matthew Fish Stewart, who is anchoring the analyst desk right here today at Hyperplay. Okay, Fish, can we just talk about the Sam Willows for a second?
Of course. I mean, that has been my favorite band of all time. And I'm so excited that I finally actually got to see them live. And what better event than Hyperplay to actually do that?
And they were incredible. I mean, just now I was in the audience watching everything go down. And you know what's so nice is that this is a regional ASEAN event. And Sam Willows being Singapore's gem, you can really just feel the love and passion around that. That was really special.
You certainly could. You could hear it from the whole crowd. I mean, everyone from Southeast Asia has gathered for this event. When you were up on stage earlier, you were asking them to cheer for their nations. That was fantastic, and I'm glad to see that everyone has joined us for not only music, but also esports, which, speaking of which, it is time for some League of Legends, because coming up, it's the best of 3 semi-final between Vietnam's Superstar Destroyers and Singapore's very own Sovereign. The winner will join the representatives from Malaysia tomorrow in the grand finals here at the Singapore Indoor Stadium.
And it's not only that, there's even more MTV Spotlight coming up later tonight as Korea's baddest female, CL, takes the stage to close up the evening. So don't go anywhere, because Hyperplay will be right back.
Cảm thấy cái đó rất là bình thường vì tụi mình đã nghĩ từ trước.
Lúc đầu chưa đánh là nghĩ là vòng bảng là sẽ căng thẳng, cái gì gay cấn á, nhưng mà khi đã thi đấu xong rồi thì cảm thấy vòng bảng khá là dễ dàng.
It's a 4-man dive in the top lane. What a coordinated effort from Vietnam.
We're pretty much in shock, right? I have never in my life seen a League of Legends game end that fast. 13 minutes 34 seconds. That has got to be a record.
We are pretty confident going into semi-finals versus Vietnam. Vietnam can overstep easily, so we can punish them if we are good enough.
If we can win the semi-final, I think sure be a problem winning the final to us.
Singapore is actually one of the strongest regions to participate in Hyperplay.
Quốc gia mạnh nhất trong bộ môn Liên minh huyền thoại em nghĩ là Việt Nam ạ.
Vietnam has always been quite an intimidating region,
but we feel that they are not as unstoppable as what their reputation makes them appear to be.
Chúng tôi muốn chứng tỏ sức mạnh của khu vực Việt Nam tại giải đấu lần này.
Em nghĩ là bán kết này thì em khá là tự tin để chiến thắng.
Chúng tôi khá chắc chắn đến việc mình sẽ giành chức vô địch ở giải đấu này ạ.
I feel that there's a little bit more at stake. There will be a lot of pressure on us to at least represent Singapore well.
It will not be an easy task.
We cannot take them lightly.
I look forward to trying my best to upset them.
Em thấy khi mà mình đại diện cho Việt Nam với cái màu áo này thì em thấy khá là vui và tự hào và mang về chiến thắng cho đội mình.
Welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of Hyperplay, coming to you live from the Singapore Indoor Stadium. After that fantastic performance from the Sand Willows, it is time now to get back into the League of Legends action. I'm here with Clement Chu as well as Mark Flavorsley, and we're about to break down what's going to happen in these next games, and just ahead of that second semi-final for today. But while we are only here at the Singapore Indoor Stadium for 2 days, the Hyperplay tournament has been going on since May this year. It all started with open qualifiers in 10 different countries in Southeast Asia with over 700 teams participating. From there, the top teams of each nation were split up into 2 groups based on regional strength and played a best-of-1 double round robin. The winning team in each group, the Philippines as well as Vietnam, advanced to the semi-finals, which is being played out today. To fill the other 2 semi-final spots, the remaining 8 teams entered a King of the Hill style gauntlet, with the representatives from Singapore as well as Malaysia advancing. That brings us to this amazing venue, the home of the Hyperplay Semifinals and Finals. Earlier today, we saw Malaysia's Kuala Lumpur Hunters beat the representatives from the Philippines, and they advanced to tomorrow's championship best of 3. Malaysia's already in the finals, and you'd expect that Singapore is getting ready to try and meet them there.
Man, you've got to root for the Singapore team. We are just days away from our National Day celebrations, and of course, the home team heroes. You have to root for them. You want to see them win.
You do, but they're going up against a tough team of Vietnam later on today. There have been very explosive matches at Hyperplay so far, not just in the qualifications, but group stages, but even in the first semi-final match that we had today, it's just been explosive, and it's all been about who can carry the hardest.
Objectively, Vietnam really is kind of the big player in this. Everyone is looking for them to potentially win the championship, but like today, we just saw Malaysia go into that slot and go for the championship.
And that's been some of the most competitive games that we've seen in this tournament so far, especially with the likes of Malaysia's star lineup. We saw Zora Vecchi pick up a quadra kill in his Game 3 performance. Caspiel was the man that took them to Game 3 because the Philippines were able to take down Game 1, and that was a roll-heavy game line.
Definitely something that we expected out of the Philippines. They brought out tons of crowd control in game number 1, tried to go back to something similar in game number 3, but by that time, it looked like Malaysia had really settled in, were punishing Philippines very heavily for overstepping, and really looked like the more refined team and well-deserving of their final spot.
Malaysia, we said, was the cleanest team coming in, and they showed that strength once again, always playing on the slower side of things and bringing it in those teamfight phases with the Kaisa.
And someone that stepped up and surprised us today was RH. We didn't talk about him much before the match because we thought all eyes would be on Vecchi as well as Caspiel, but RH looked fantastic in the mid lane. Showed he could play hero champions like Zoe, almost pulling back game 1 for Malaysia. Game 2 took a step back and picked up a more supportive role and just showed what he can do in game 3 as well.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see where this guy goes, you know, in the finals and beyond, because again, so many eyes were trained on the more veteran players, but this guy stepped up in a huge way, enabling the whole team to play much more aggressively.
And with their win, they advance to the grand finals of Hyperplay tomorrow, and with that in mind, we'll have to take a look and see what's going to be happen with the rest of the teams, because we still have to see how Vietnam will do against Singapore today and who will meet them in the grand finals.
It's going to be a very hype matchup right here. Vietnam, like I said before, just a little bit early, was the big favorites coming in. We saw them 8-0 in group stages, and it's just how dominant they actually have been. At 15 minutes, they are ahead by 7,000 more gold and by 4 towers. They're not only winning, they're absolutely crushing.
And on top of that, we also not only have League of Legends action taking place today, but we have more MTV Spotlight. CL, the one and only CL, will take to the stage for the final MTV Spotlight of today.
That's going to be very, very exciting. I mean, it's just been awesome, right? Esports action, music performance action. It's just such a great place to be.
We're about to meet those 2 teams who are going into the second semi-final match of today. So let's go and take a look at the home team of Singapore.
I'm Yoon and I play top lane for Team Singapore.
My name is Internal and I play jungle for Singapore.
Hello, my name is Eric Alec and I play mid lane for Team Singapore.
I'm Quick and I play ADC for Team Singapore.
I'm Rafer and I play support for Team Singapore.
For our group stages, we won all our games except our 2 games to Philippines.
To be honest, our expectation was to get first seed. We had to play the King of the Hill and settle for second seed instead.
After the loss against Philippines, I think everyone was quite sad and no one really talked much for about half a day. But we picked ourselves up and prepared for our games in the King of Hill.
It was rather stressful because it's a best of 1 setting. If we had lost the game, we'll be out of the competition. But now that we have qualified to play in the main stage, the pressure will be more to perform even better and hopefully win the entire thing. to make Singapore proud. Individually, we are all strong players generally.
All of us want to win every tournament.
I think our main strength of our team is that me and our top laner can carry games very well, and our jungler is always there to support us. So he's like the backbone of our team. And our bot is very like self-sufficient. It's a pretty good team dynamic to have.
I actually have quite good synergy in my AD Quake because we play at least like 200 solo kill games together. We actually communicate quite well with each other.
Yeah, I think we are both just strong individual players, and together we can put up a strong performance as a body duo.
Several years back, Yasuo was released. I started spamming Yasuo and I could just blind pick it into anything. If it's up to me to decide the draft, I'll definitely blind pick and first pick Yasuo whenever I can. I hope that I can make a name for myself playing Yasuo at a very high level in competitive.
Our MVP of our team is Eric Khalid.
Eric Khalid, our mid laner, is one of the best mid laners in the region.
So far he's been really consistent for the team. So I don't think he has had a bad game so far. So I think he's like the rock of the team.
To be very honest, I feel that I'll be the MVP when I'm playing Yasuo. Otherwise, my mid laner is a very good player who is a very versatile pool of champions. So he will likely be the MVP if I'm not playing Yasuo.
This year, I actually attended a K-pop concert at the Singapore Indoor Stadium. Now I'm actually competing on the main stage.
Singapore Indoor Stadium will be like one of the biggest stages I'll be playing on. It'll definitely be hype, very hype.
I'm really looking forward to playing in front of such a huge crowd.
I'll definitely look out for the support that Singapore will have for us when we are playing in the stage.
Well, there you have it. The home team from Singapore looking to try and cause an upset today. They know that this is going to be a tough task to take on Vietnam, but they believe that they can do it. And it's been a while since Singapore has made it this far in an international tournament. They're looking for some redemption here today.
Yeah, you have to give it to these guys in terms of taking the game very seriously. They make some big claims. Oh, I think I'm going to be MVP, we can do it. But they say it with such an even keel. And I think that's, a lot of credit to give to Omo, who is their coach, and a lot of the veteran players. They know they need to be very, very focused in this series to pull off the W.
But at the same time, they're such a fun team to look at because they're just a
Definitely.
bunch of friends. They talk about it all the time, how fun it is playing with each other, and they're not bad in the professional stage as well. They took 3rd and 4th place in the previous GPL spring, so they're looking for another swing again at the title.
They also are able to do better than their rivals of Resurgence, who is a professional esports organization in Singapore. They took them down 3-1 in the GPL. Moving into Hyperplay, they also qualified by taking their Resurgence 3-1 once again. So they have shown and proven that they are the best of the best and can go toe-to-toe against the professional players in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, definitely a fun squad to watch because they've gone through their fair share of roster changes. Big names like Mexi and Sinchikai that many local players, love and rally around actually out now. And then you've got the likes of, Arkelic, well, he's been there for a while, but now Yon, you heard him being very vocal. I'm going to be MVP. He can put on some absolutely stellar performances. And it's a fun squad to watch to see how they've developed. And we're going to look for them to pull up some really, really highlight reel-worthy performances.
And I just want to say, in my opinion, Arkelic is the best player of the tournament. He has 19 solo kills just by himself, actually over the entirety of the Vietnamese squad. If there's one player you want to remember the name of, Arkelic is the one you want to do it.
Definitely. Arkelic, the shining star of Singapore. He's going to shine so bright that hopefully it draws a lot of focus away from his other teammates because they don't have as deep champion pools, but if he can free them up to play what they are comfortable with, you've got a very scary looking Singapore squad.
There's even more for Singapore to fight for today because Malaysia just qualified for the Grand Finals. And who better than to go to the finals to take on Malaysia than the home team of Singapore? They're going to be hyped up for that. It's a grudge match that has lasted so many times.
Absolutely. All the way back in the GPL, Singapore and Vietnam, they have really jostled back and forth to find that, all-important top position at the standings. Malaysia was also playing in that mix as well, but Singapore, they are going up against their longtime rivals in Vietnam once again, and they're going to have to pull out a lot of highlight-worthy plays to find the win.
Yeah, especially if they want to make it all the way to the Grand Finals where they would be able to take on Malaysia. But first, as the teams get ready, let's turn to Vietnam's Superstar Destroyers because these are the tournament favorites. They qualified from over 210 teams in the open qualifiers from Vietnam, and they have the head coach of Optimus leading them into this match.
And you can read here that they're actually starting mature over Darius, who's been helping them throughout the entire tournament. The rest of the squad is the same. Vormund, Puppy K, Artemis, and then we have High 3 into the bot lane.
Yeah, Vietnam is such a scary squad. Superstar Destroyers living up to their name. They absolutely tear through their opposition, and anytime they smell weakness in any lane, they're just so ruthless. Like, they don't let them play League of Legends.
And they had a fun way getting into this tournament, right? Because their coach of Optimus plays for Sky Gaming in the Vietnam Championship Series. They are a premier team in Vietnam. They also took place in the Hyperplay qualifiers, to which they lost during the qualifiers. Optimus then went to the sister team, which he also founded, started coaching them, and managed to coach this team to beat the team that took them down in the qualifiers.
Awesome.
And now they're undefeated. Now they're tournament favorites as well, looking to try and take this.
This is Superstar Destroyer being the B team and taking revenge for the A team. They actually beat the same opponents that took down their A team in Sky Gaming MEG to come all the way here. So they're not only representing themselves, they're representing a premier organization of the region.
And a big focus point for them is the fact that we can't quite poke holes in their strategy or their team roster.
Yeah.
When we looked at a couple of the teams at Hyperplays, there were very clear weaknesses in players that couldn't quite hold their own against some of the other players in the opposition. But for Vietnam, everyone is just incredibly strong on this team.
And the highlight I want to give to is Artemis and High3 in the bot lane. They're known as the best kill lane of the tournament. The Cassiopeia, Alistar was one of them, and Rakan is always banned away from them.
Yeah, you highlight those players, but then I want to talk about Vorman in the jungle. You can see him on his Kindred here. There were some absolutely disgusting plays coming out of him where, you know, the moment a flash is burned in the lane, he would visit it 6 times, you know, in 5 minutes and just wipe out the opposition, literally setting up a 5v4.
Which is actually really scary coming into this match because he's going up against Singapore's jungler, who unfortunately has not had a great tournament so far at Hyperplay.
He's had a really rough run, actually. We were talking about internal, and the way he plays is more about creating space for his teammates, but he does need to shore up his individual performances and link up the great soul lanes from Singapore if they want to find a win.
Which is so strange because this tournament has been jungle focused. We saw Dodoy in the previous set.
Right.
We saw Caspiel carry Malaysia into Game 3 to make sure they can try and make it to the grand finals. Whereas for the side of Singapore, they can't really be looking towards their jungler unless Eternal steps up today, and he has all the motivation to do so to try and make it to the finals.
Yeah, at the same time, you have to hope that he knows his role very clearly, because when you compare his picks as across the other junglers, he's been picking things that create a bit more space, right? The Gragas, the Sejuani. So hopefully the team plays around that and it becomes more of a strong point rather than something that, oh, you know, we can't play around it.
I think the onus is really up to Rapier, the bottom lane support for Singapore, to really link up those solo lanes and make sure they have a strong top side.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Rapier later on before we go into the match, but it is time to head to the stage and meet the teams vying for a spot in tomorrow's Hyperplay Grand Finals.
Well, thank you, Fish. And hello, Singapore.
Oh, come on, you guys can do better than that. Hello, Singapore Indoor Stadium. There we go.
Well, to formally introduce myself, I'm Julian Pastry Time Car here with Hanley Hofer. And I'd like to invite you, Singapore, in welcoming our 2 semi-finalists.
That's right, so help me put your hands together and make some noise for representing Vietnam. We have the Superstar Destroyers.
In the top lane, Mature. Roaming the jungle, Bormund. Holding down the mid lane, it's Puppy K. Their AD carry, High3. Support, Artemis. Their sub, Darius, and their coach, Tran Van Krong.
And on the other side of the stage, coming to Hyperplay, this one is pretty special for us Singaporeans. Help me make some noise for our home team from Singapore. It's Sovereign!
Starting in the top lane, Yon! In the jungle, Eternal. Their mid laner, Ari Kalik. Quake at AD carry. Their support, Rapier. their substitute Kusuo, and their coach Omo. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Singapore!
All right, that's right. As the teams get ready for battle, why don't we show our semifinalists a little bit more love? Come on, let's make some noise. And in the meantime, I'm going to send it back to you, Fish, at the Hyperplay analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Hanli. The players are getting ready for this matchup, and we really need to dive in on how these teams are going to be playing today, because this is the matchup a lot of people have been waiting for. This is going to be Vietnam taking on Singapore.
Yeah, you have to look at what is going to be thrown at the tournament favorites, right? Vietnam has such clear defined strengths. Singapore as well. Let's take a look at their mid laner. Arkellic, really, as we talked about it before, I think this guy is well deserving to be player of the tournament. He's had such high kill participation, highest in the tournament, 72%. That means, you know, 28% of the time, he's doing his own thing. 72% of the time, he's helping out other people. And his solo kills, 19. That's absolutely insane.
And that's pretty fortunate for Singapore because they're going up against Puppy Gay, who doesn't really lead the lane. There's actually a 30-point kill participation difference between those two mid laners. So if there's someone that's going to save Singapore on the entire map, it's going to have to be Arkellic.
We've harped and harped about Arkellic, but he couldn't have done it without the support that we see from Team Singapore. An interesting statistic that we found about the team is 100% of the time at this tournament, they have taken the first turret, win or lose. It seems like they are structured, well set up, and play around their strategies well. One of the more refined teams we have at the tournament couldn't have been done without the veteranship of Rapier, as well as this coach, Omo.
And what's really interesting is that those first towers are not where you think they usually come from. It's not from the bot lane. It's actually coming from the top with the carry of Yone, and then from the mid lane with Arkellic as well. They're able to pressure their lane opponents so much and force them out of lane early.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this Yone character everyone keeps bringing up and who himself wants to make a name for himself. Fantastic, very ambitious, but at the same time, he's had, you know, his champions handed to him on a silver platter throughout the group stage. This guy made a name for himself in the local scene, playing the likes of Yasuo, Gangplank, Aatrox, and guess which 3 champions he got in the group stage? Yasuo, Gangplank, and Aatrox. So will Vietnam actually let that go through? Because we saw in the Philippines and Malaysia matchup, some of these comfort picks got through.
That's right.
And the teams were able to work around it. It's not, you know, impossible to work around.
It's absolutely crazy that he's been able to play only those 3 champions throughout the entire tournament. Exactly his 3 best. But if I'm Vietnam, I might let some of those through because those carry champions, they need a strong jungler. And we're talking about Eternal not really matching up to the 2v2.
That's fair.
So there is a good chance that we could see a very high-level duel between bruisers in the top lane.
Especially with Vietnam being seeded into the semifinals first, they've had some time to scout out Team Singapore. So I wouldn't be surprised if they prepared some strategies to counter out the picks that they're likely to pick up going into this best-of-3 series. I really want to talk about Kusuo as well, because he is the substitute support for Team Singapore. We've seen him play a couple of games so far at Hyperplay, and we expect that he could potentially be substituted into the roster and throw a spanner in the works against Vietnam.
Yeah, from what we've heard, it is Rapier that's going to be starting, but definitely Kusuo finding his own way in the group stages, being really good at supporting with the likes of, you know, Morgana, Shen. So you see that the clear strengths in terms of, you know, kill lanes are top and mid, and then you've got the likes of Kusuo coming in to provide the supplementary support, the Black Shields, the Shen ultimates to enable those plays.
There is a little difference between the two players. We have seen Kusuo roam around with Eternal a lot more than compared to Rapier. So Kusuo might be more in tune since he's been playing more recently in terms of the summer split.
But as we've harped and harped on so far, it is Vietnam as the favorites coming into this matchup. We expect them to be incredibly strong and a difficult opponent for Singapore to take down. So if Singapore was to pull up an upset, how does Singapore do it?
For me, it's very clear. Arkellic has got to put on his hypercarry shoes, his hypercarry suit, his hypercarry hat, everything that he can put on that allows him to hypercarry, and the rest of the team hopefully plays around that. Because I really think that, you know, talking about the other strengths, Yone and Arkellic have the lion's share of carrying to do. And if Arkellic can draw some bans away from Yone, that frees up the hyper carries he can play.
So, Mark, you think that this is going to be definitely Singapore taking this grand final?
Oh, come on, man. Nationals Day is just a couple of days away. What else can I say? Singapore all the way, baby.
Whereas for the side of you, Clement, do you think that it's going to be a tough task going up against Vietnam? Do you think they can take it down and go up against KLH in the grand finals?
I'm a little bit sorry, but I have to rain on your parade here. I think Singapore is outmatched in terms of the organization, in terms of the experience, and in terms of the results of group stages as well. Vietnam just show no weakness, and they show no mercy.
Well, let's see if that upset can happen for Team Singapore to meet KLH in the grand finals. It's almost time for picks and bans, so let's send it over to our casters for game one.
G'day, g'day. Hello, everyone. Pastry time here with Sam, Kobe, Hunt, and Kenza as we're just minutes away from a pick ban in game one of this semi-final between the representatives from Vietnam and Singapore.
Super excited. We got to get the next finalists on our hands, Pastry. Is it going to be the hometown crowd or is it going to be Vietnam, favorites for the tournament?
I think regardless, it should be a very exciting matchup as Malaysia, of course, do await the winner of this series. I'll be watching pretty closely. And already, we went the maximum in the best of three. We had 3 very tense and exciting games. And personally, I'm not invested in a team necessarily winning here. I'm just hoping for more hype games.
I think we're definitely going to get that. A lot of early action should be the case here as well. And let's jump right into Champion Select. Vietnam are on the blue side, and we'll see if they actually will, target Yon and target that top lane of Yasuo, Gangplank, and Aatrox. Already, though, bottom lane with a little bit of a look here with Swain getting banned out.
Talia also going to get banned here by Singapore, which I believe was absent in the last series. So I think maybe some differences here in how the draft happened. We see a lot of targeted bans in our last series, but maybe something a bit more standard as Pyke actually, kind of a curious one, but still very strong, is going to get banned. Aatrox also joining the mix.
All right. Not going to be on the case here. Interesting, we still have a lot of the power picks available with Zoe. Morgana has been fought over pretty heavily between these teams as well. There's the Nocturne that does show up, though, so we won't have a repeat of the Nocturne-Galio combination. Again, though, they mentioned it, Acrylic, the Galio is going to be available, so we'll see if Singapore go for one of his highest KDA champions.
Yeah, Kindred also going to be banned away, so 2 strong junglers taken. That actually leaves first pick Camille, interestingly, there. For Mature, I assume they're on the side of Vietnam, and already you mentioned it, Kobe, very quick Morgana lock-in as well.
All right, Black Shield definitely going to be powerful for them as far as evading that engage. Could be a Jungle Camille as well on the side of Vietnam. Go for the Scuttle Crab control early on and some early ganks.
So the other pick is, it is Varus actually for Singapore, so already completing their bot lane. I assume Morgana, of course, is very flexible, so there are some choices that Singapore can make in the rest of this draft.
Yeah, they talked about it. Their bottom lane, very self-sufficient. They want to be able to camp for mid lane and top lane. In order to do that, they use their early section of the pick and ban phase here to secure them. Varus and Morgana, extremely safe bottom lane, can poke away from range. Varus has really seen a resurgence recently. Can even go with the old kind of lethality poke build with the early tier, or still go with more auto attack focus.
Well, here's something a bit more fun. Anivia actually locked in pretty early here for Vietnam. Certainly a pick I believe we were expecting to see.
Yeah, he has 4 games played on the Anivia, 12 KDA overall, so pretty strong. Most played champion by far at the tournament for Puppy K. And of course they have won all of their games, so going pretty well. Top lane Jace, that does signal the Jungle Camille that we are looking for.
You're right, Kobe.
Vormund, let's see if he can get off the ground early on. Because Anivia does have possible stun setups. We've seen earlier on in the tournament, Puppy K's made very good use of Fog of War, hiding behind a corner to throw out the stun from to really get that setup. But of course, if Camille goes in first with the hook shot, that makes things way easier.
Certainly does, but very interesting to see Vietnam drafting pure topside here. You have to think with their first 3 picks, of course, Singapore have taken what we assume to be their bot lane. So with Gragas the next lock-in, we'll move into phase 2 of the bans, and Tom Kench will actually be taken off the board. We've seen it already as a nice counter pick into Morgana. Don't really want your parade rained on when you're trying to bind the enemy duo, so take that one off the board.
Yeah, it definitely could be a possibility here. We also have a lot of Alistar play coming so far from High 3 in this tournament. And could very well see another stun setup for themselves. The Gragas pickup is also interesting for Singapore. Can possibly go to so many different lanes. Even be played as a support in the bottom lane if they want to flex that much.
Let's see what the next ban is here. Actually, Yasuo was the ban away from Yon, so targeting some of those carry champions. And Graves actually either knowing something we don't, or maybe not recognizing the potential Camille jungle. I have to be missing something. That's a really interesting ban.
Yeah, could be targeted at bot lane anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Or exactly what you're talking about, and they might not. You know, Camille can also be played in a support role.
Yes.
If they wanted to flex it down there. So covering all bases, it looks like.
Cannon also banned away, so another pretty strong top laner taken away from Yon, but perhaps defaulting here. We'll see exactly where Singapore want to go with their next pick here. Don't think it's Vayne, although for some reason I've seen a lot of Vayne hovers today. But On was a pretty well received attention-wise in our last series, but instead looks like Ari Kellic. This is the big star on the team, perhaps the best mid laner left in the tournament. Orianna, a very popular pick right now.
Yeah, definitely a strong pick right now in meta, as well into Anivia. He is going to have some extra speed there, can use dissonance whenever he needs. And there's a possibility of flexing around still. Here we go with Vietnam's last lock-ins, though. What is the bottom lane going to be? We are thinking the Alistar once again, and that is going to be the case. So they do have the possibility of that all-in.
Nice read there. So Alistar is going to be the support. Now what's going to lock in alongside it? It will be Lucian. At the looks of things there for Artemis.
All right, will Yon live up to his word? He said if Yasuo is banned out, then he's going to be able to go to the Gangplank. That would be his third, basically, tier champion now, since Aatrox and Yasuo have already been taken off the table. Is he going to go with another carry, or is he going to play for the team? It's
playing for the team, Kobe.
All right, so even though Ornn has gotten some recent nerfs, targeted more at the lane phase, that has gone a bit weaker. His ultimate is still very powerful, even with the longer cooldown now, so he can set up team fights for the team and play that way. But again, with him not on a carry champion, that means that Singapore's strategy might be very telegraphed here with Gragas ganks towards mid lane. Go for the body slam flash very early on, so you can at least trade flashes, maybe get the egg from Anivia, and try and get Ari Kellic to a good position to try and carry the game from.
This is extremely reliant on the two carries that Singapore have drafted here in Orianna and Varus. And as you mentioned earlier, Kobe, that self-sufficiency in bot lane does make it perhaps a bit predictable. We'll have to see. The coaches will shake hands for the first time in our series. And we'll see what these two semifinalists have in store.
All right, will Vietnam get off to this early start? They've got Jace on the top side, Camille jungle as well for some possible early looks. We have also had some interesting level 1 so far. Definitely have to keep your eyes on those invades when things like Morgana Binding are in the mix. And First Blood, definitely a very valuable prize.
Expecting the aggression to stay pretty hot, though, between all these sides. Vietnam, of course, internationally known for pretty aggressive playstyle in the showings that they have had. So not expecting too much of a difference there here for their squad. And Singapore, maybe the underdogs perhaps in this matchup, but, of course, playing in front of a home crowd can be a pretty good buff.
Yeah, they're going to need to hear all the support they can get. As they said, this is going to be a difficult task here, trying to take down the tournament favorites. But they've got a couple of chances to do so here, so they can meet Malaysia in the finals.
And again, excited to see kind of what Ari Kellic can get done here on Orianna. It's been kind of creeping up towards one of the highest priority mid laners. I mean, if you want to think about this, Zoe was up and ignored this whole draft. Instead, we went for Anivia and Orianna. Obviously, on the Vietnam side, Anivia a lot more comfortable as far as picks. But Ari Kellic just taking, I think, maybe the best available mid laner, depending on your feelings on Zoe's power currently.
Yeah, it definitely could be the case. Bit of a pause here at the very beginning. Make sure everything is working on stage for all of the players after our transition from setup to concert to, once again, League of Legends setup.
Perhaps the sound waves kind of rattled some PC boxes. It was a great set, so I can't blame the PCs for being impressed. But
it really was.
We'll see what the issue is as soon as we know. And, of course, we'll be into game as soon as possible. So thank you for your patience. And we'll just keep hanging out for a little while longer. I will say that just high level looking at the Vietnamese side, this comp just screams aggression to me. I mean, Anivia, relatively defensive champion, Alistar, very good engage, and can get tanky with his ulti, but everything else is just get in there, go hard, and get aggressive.
Yeah, Camille definitely has a couple of options here as far as which lane to go to early, but the Alistar Lucian, definitely possible to try and all in. See once the summoners are taken as well, and if there's any interesting runes picked up.
Always good to have a check in, but it looks like the game is back underway. So thank you, Singapore, for your patience. It's time for game one between Vietnam and Singapore. There can only be one in the Hyperplay Grand Finals tomorrow. Unfortunately, Kobe, as I scan across the runes, I don't think there's anything too exciting right now, but that could change.
All right, well, Eternal on the Gragas. His job is going to be to try and set up around the mid lane for Singapore. He does have Electrocute for the early burst damage. May see him go for one of those early body slam flashes. Bevormund on the Camille, definitely powerful at fighting over Scuttle Crabs early. We'll see if the bottom lanes actually give him a pull here to start on red buff so he can actually go for those duels.
Rapier also with a nice bit of Tormented Soil, so gets some harass down with area and picks up gold from the Spell Thief, so always nice to have that slim
Free
gold
money
lead entering the 2v2. Otherwise, teams are being pretty safe here as far as their early spread out. In fact, Yeon's even dancing. He's not worried at all about what's going on right now. He's just waiting for the minions to come up to the wave, and he'll presumably enter his 1v1 after he's done dancing. In fact, he's going to even help his jungler, but did need a break.
He's on Ornn duty. Going to be just fine here for the early stages, and both of them look like they are going to set up for red buff starts here for both junglers, so that they will not be at a disadvantage if they do get into a skirmish over the Scuttle Crab. And with these two, a lot of it does come down to, are you going to be able to hit your stun, right? If Camille's able to hit the hook shot, then there's a huge advantage there. But if you can dodge it, you know, maybe even use an early flash there, then you can get the advantage in the 1v1.
Something about if you can dodge a hook.
Yep.
We'll have to see. I mean, certainly a very aggressive jungler champion, so I think I agree in that Vormund will have to have a pretty good start, all things considered, in order to get off the ground. I mean, I guess thinking about where he might gank, I think Jace naturally will have pretty big edge in his 1v1, and Evia also has better setup, but I am curious to see where the attention for these junglers is going to be paid, especially on the Vietnamese side. You said already, Kobe, that we are expecting Singapore to basically go mid lane whenever Eternal can. He has been struggling a bit throughout the tournament, so it would be a great momentum builder for him if he can have a good start and get their star player in the mid lane ahead.
Also can't play those mind games. If you've laid the groundwork and you have created this pattern of not going bottom, then playing off playing off that Morgana binding is definitely a viable strategy. We'll have to wait around a little bit longer to find out, though. How did you enjoy that performance, though, previously?
That was actually incredible.
I had not heard the Sam Willows before, but they gained a new fan.
Certainly
Definitely
did.
a really fun performance.
I tweeted the same thing, Kobe. What? But yeah, I know, such an incredible set. It's actually so cool to have. I never would have thought, like, I've been to concerts, I've been to League of Legends events.
Separately?
Yeah, separately, certainly. I've never had one combined before until now. But the atmosphere can feel very similar, of course. You know, there's lots of spectacle, lots of hype, lots of excitement. Obviously, what you're going to see is quite different, but I would have never thought to combine them. But now that I'm here, I don't know why someone didn't do this earlier.
Definitely agree. Has been super fun so far, and we have another day tomorrow as well lined up. One more concert too, CL coming out after this one.
I know there's, you can hear them quietly as they're waiting for the game to resume, but earlier when we were talking about it, you could hear, you know, the crowd's kind of still filtering in. CL fans are still incredibly loud, just with the people that are there already, so hold on to your eardrums, ladies and gentlemen, because they might get blown off when the fans start cheering.
Yeah, definitely excited for performance number 2. Currently, though, still working on the issue here on stage. As you can see, we've enlisted the help of as many people as possible trying to figure this out on the side of Vietnam and get us into the game.
All right, well, with that, we are going to take a quick break from the caster desk and throw ourselves back over to the analyst desk.
Time. We're about to get into the match as soon as we possibly can. We apologize for the delay, but as Kobe said, there's an army behind the Vietnamese team at the moment trying to sort out those technical difficulties.
It's a 5-man gank, man.
We should get back to the game shortly.
Yeah, I mean, but that does give us more time to talk about some of the picks and bans that came through. Very interesting. Morgana, as this tournament progresses, is becoming super high priority for many of these teams.
We have a ton of good Morgana players, and I think it fits the Singapore style very well. It's a wave clear champion that you can do something with when you're pushed in. And Singaporean bot lanes, they're pushed into constantly.
When you're against a team like Vietnam, absolutely, you're going to be pushed into your towers. That doesn't deter any jungler, though. You know, in solo queue games, say, how am I supposed to gank? Get pushed so far up in the lane. Dive the tower, man. Vietnam will be all in for that, trust me.
Hopefully they're able to fight back from that, because we saw in our last set, in Game 3, where Zoraveki was able to get the push in the bottom lane, he automatically won that lane, and he was the star that carried the game for Malaysia in that third set. And Vietnam could probably do the same because all 5 of their players are just so strong coming into this tournament.
And you can just see across the board that their laning phase is going to be devastating. You have the Jace versus the Ornn into the top lane. Mid lane with the Camille around, I would give that to Vietnam as well. And their bot lane is also the more aggressive side. So for Singapore, it does seem like they have to weather this early storm to really start playing their teamfight game.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We don't have Yon on the Yasuo, of course, but Arakelik had his fair share of champions. You know, very little bans going his way. In fact, I don't think any bans went his way, yeah, none at all. So a lot more focus on the top side. We're going to have to see how comfortable Yon is on the Ornn as well, because stats-wise, he fell a bit behind when he played some of these tank champions, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he can still bust out a carry role.
And the pick itself is very interesting because we don't see tanks too often coming into Hyperplay. It's been all about carries, even trying to carry from the support position. We've seen that quite a few times today already, and it's Singapore going away from that slightly, trying to do something different, so to speak.
Yeah, the thing I look about at Singapore is that they do have weaker lanes, and how they should salvage the position is they should go for a level 1 hard invade. They have the Morgana, they have the CC coming out from the Ornn as well. If they can cut the map so that Vorman actually has to stay on the bottom side, then I think they have a much better chance making it to mid-game unscathed.
Keeping eyes on Vorman is going to be essential for Singapore to get through the early games. Remember, Vietnam was the team that got the record-winning, fastest game in the tournament.
Just under 14
minutes. Not even 14, so I mean, closer to the 14 side, but still, they're a little more than 13 minutes. That's absolutely insane. Now, Singapore do prefer to play it a little bit slower, not as slow as their Philippine counterparts. So early game, they really need to keep eyes on Vorman, otherwise it's just going to snowball out of control.
Now, if there's a team that can break a slow match, it's going to be Vietnam. And you look at their picks going to this game, again, it's 4 carries in the top side of the map with Alistar as their support. It's going to be difficult for them if they get into a team fight, it seems, because there's tons of crowd control coming out from Singapore's team. Lots of ways to lock them down, but if they can get them by surprise or poke out with the Jace, it's going to be very difficult.
You're thinking about the wrong game for Vietnam. If you look at their kill participation, it's actually pretty low across the board. It's all skirmishes, all everywhere, every single lane. They want a 2v2, 3v3. That's their game plan. So they're not really looking at the 5v5 as much as a lot of people would assume. What I would look at this comp is the amount of kill pressure they just have from laning phase. Sure. This is going to be the first Camille jungler we see, and even though she's been nerfed so heavily in 8.14, she's still great into the jungle. The hook shot doesn't really affect you in that manner, and her level 2 gank is absolutely ridiculous. It's 1600 range into the mid lane.
I mean, level 2 aside, we saw Camille use earlier today in level 1 fights, ranking up hook shot at the very beginning and picking up kills from the very start.
Yeah, that could absolutely be huge. Just getting an early start, beating the jungle timers. But that's why I think you mentioned the invade being so key. Let's see, because Singapore clearly have a very clear strategy, as you mentioned, Fish. So much crowd control packed in there, but it's not going to matter if they can't make it into the mid game, into the team fight phases. So let's see how they can weather the early Vietnamese storm.
Well, it seems like we're able to fix those difficulties going into the match. So let's send it straight back to our shoutcasters.
Hey, it's time for a game. Kobe, we waited a little longer than we may have liked, but still excited to get our second semifinal kicked off here. Heard the analysts talk about some of the draft, kind of looked a lot of that stuff. So let's get some gameplay going in just a minute.
I'm ready as you are, Pastry. Let's unpause this sucker and get going. Who's going to be the next team to meet Malaysia in the finals? Will it be Singapore or Vietnam? They are already on the rift, and they're already exchanging blows.
Kind of probably could have guessed this was going to happen. As soon as we're out of the polls, instantly people are already harassing. Minute 55 in, so it looks like laning phase has started. Red buff there for both junglers, as well as we are going to catch ourselves back up. Everything seems a-okay.
Yeah, Camille has gone from red buff up to the top Scuttle Crab because he knows if on equal footing, he'll have the advantage in the 1v1 duels. So he's able to take control of that Scuttle Crab for the vision to protect this Jace, who wants to get a lot of harassment down early on with this Ornn. Go into the brush, use your range advantage, drop the minion aggro, and try and get some health done. That being said, Young's pretty good job there, just sitting back there on the Ornn, especially with Doran's shield can kind of sustain through it.
It's kind of cool just to look at the minimap right now and see how the lanes are being pushed in the 3 different sections. I mean, 2 very far forward Vietnamese players in top and mid, and bot lane is going the way of Singapore as far as that early push. So I think the early lanes are going as expected, which, is a good thing, I suppose, given that we have professional analysts knowing what's going on.
Yeah, the first 2 picks here, the Varus and the Morgana doing their work as expected, pushing on in the lane with the Q spam here from Quake, and Binding did hit earlier on to give them a little bit of an advantage in the health pools. We actually have Ormond up to the top side, Maybe he's going around for kind of a lane gank here through the top brush, expecting some Gragas play. They do see him on a ward on bottom side now, so then they could just threaten the dive here because they know that there's no Gragas.
Yone actually charged in aggressively. Still got his flash. Vorman, though, is going to reveal himself.
Yeah, Vorman tried to use Ornn's own terrain that he created there for the hook shot, but Ornn also instantly destroyed the terrain in the charge afterwards, so there was nothing left to hook shot off of. And they've been revealed on the top side. That means Eternal here on the Gragas, able to steal away most of the Raptors and give some bottom river control.
Yeah, Vorman looking to the Krugs. I think he took some of them here, but he's going to lose a pretty important camp and even left a little Raptor in there as well, did Eternal. So he's going to delay that timer there for Camille, although it looks like they have seen it now. Checking with the bot side though, Artemis, as we've seen, getting pushed in alongside High 3. Quake so far looking pretty good, up a wave in a bit. Shouldn't be too much more from this stage though. Although we'll see how the harass does continue as Rapier does get the puddle down onto Lucian, and good bit of poke there with some help by Airy.
And look at this really deep invade here from Vormund. He was trying to gank bottom lane, then he saw the Scuttle Crab has already been picked up by Eternal, so he went all the way through the jungle.
Ooh,
and he's going to wrap down here through the Fog of War.
Such a nice gank pass here. They're trying to go in. There's the flash pulverized there onto Rapier. Black Shield already down. They need to try and get it, but the flash is in. And there it is. First blood over to Vietnam.
They're able to find the kill. All that work done. The long route from Vormund through the enemy jungle. And they do find the kill on bottom side. Flash is used from everyone there, though. Camille, Lucian, and Alistar all blowing their flashes. Maybe those summoner spells being expended on the bottom side will be a target for Singapore to try and strike back.
Well, such a clever path, and he is rewarded for his perseverance in ganking from top to bot, basically after he hit level 3.
That's the story of Camille Jungle, my friend.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't want to spend too much time farming, not the best at clearing them out, but again, Eternal here, trying to make him pay for it. You gank bottom side, you reveal like that, especially blowing flash. He wants to go counter jungle, take away the wolves, and that's kind of been the story here for Singapore's jungler. He's doing his work, trying to counter jungle, take down the camp lead, and allow assistance to his solo lanes, rather than fighting straight up 1v1. Here we go, though, Jace into the river, and Eternal does have some positioning above him.
Oh, not going to spot him, actually. Eternal holding position over the blast cone.
Teleport comes back in, though, from Puppy K, and that is going to mean no action will take place, even though Gragas does show in the river.
Yep, Mature actually is going to spot it, but the Electrocute already procced. Ari Kalik roaming up as well, but Mature pumps the hammer and disengages with a bit of extra movement speed.
Yeah, Arkellic has also gone for the early Dark Seal, so possibility of stacking up. Again, this is the star player for Singapore. Very big playmaking ability. And Oriana definitely a versatile champion for him to work with. Does have to walk down to the bottom side, though, as Vormund has gone over the back of the Dragon Pit, trying to kill his Scuttle.
Yeah, does get the second one here. Probably see farm up a little bit more unless there's an opportunistic gank that he can find. Actually going to roam in for an invade. Maybe looking for the Wolf Camp because Blue Time respawn not there just yet.
Should be able to get the deep ward here onto Wolves as he tries to take it away with his early Tiamat upgrade. Eternal, will he find him in there?
Oh, doesn't go in for it. Actually, the hookshot burnt as well, so Vormund actually quite vulnerable. Artemis even roaming up to make sure he could stay safe. Going to dash out of there as a TP coming in from Singapore. Binding hits. There's the on-hod. Young going to look to try and knock him up. There's one. There's two actually in the back as Artemis does get knocked up, but High 3 already dead. Shockwave is good. Arakalik able to get it. No, it's Eternal that grabs the kill credit.
And even though Yo not on a carry champion, this is why they drafted Ornn. As soon as he's level 6, he teleports to the team for the team play. Finds crowd control on 2 of them, and they do get a couple of kills as well as the dragon. Jace, sometime alone up there with the top turret, but it's not going to be enough to take it down. In Singapore, strike back with some early lead here.
Have to see how the extended trade does play out, but very good job by Singapore giving themselves a slim gold lead. But finally getting some kills on the board has to feel good after Vormund was kind of running rampant there on the Camille. Still, he is now level 6, so those ganks will be significantly more potent.
Yeah, and even though, Yone missed out on some CS here, he's stacking early armor into this Jace, so the lethality that has been rushed by Mature, not going to have as much of effectiveness there, and Ornn could just go back to lane, try and soak up some minions, wait for the cooldowns for his ultimate and teleport to come back up, and try and make some more team plays. We can take another look at it here.
Yeah, Binding does hit. Tunnel just falls in immediately, and that TP timing was so good.
Yeah, he's able to hit the stun onto Artemis, then flashes for the charge setup. Shockwave from Ari Kellick is able to get up the second one, and the kill credit did end up going over to Eternal, who's actually gone for the challenging smite here. Does have red smite to be able to fend for himself if he does find himself caught by something like Camille.
Yeah, I feel like Volman can continue to play pretty aggressive here. In fact, maybe even looking towards the top side of the map now. Young with no flash after the early engage is not a bad target. And once again, Volman is going to sneak in up through the lane here.
Ooh, they're waiting for him in the brush.
Yeah, speaking of lane ganks, ooh, Hexlife Pole's not going to quite connect. But Quake taking a lot of damage. Artemis does burn the culling, but can't quite get the shots in onto Varus.
Yeah, Varus ultimate does chain back there, and a little bit of damage exchanged. In the end, the flash not able to get him far enough. Was the Hex Tech flash. Top side though, Vormund still thinking about going for something here. Now with Camille, you can take tower aggro initially, then use your ultimate to try and drop it afterwards, but because Mature on the Jace is so low health, it's going to be very risky. Now they're calling even Puppy K on the Anivia to roam up. 3 members threatening the dive now.
Oh, Mature! He takes 2 turret shots!
He went in before the minions arrived. Now Yon actually moves up to the minion wave, and there's 2 members here looking to dive.
Yep, stun is there, but the CC chain is so good. Wonderful play there from Vietnam. They still get the kill.
It was
Cast
all a
goes
bait.
really nice. Binding though can't quite follow up. Artemis, I think, dashed out of it. It was only High in trouble.
That is a 200 IQ tower tanking by Mature. He walks in, no one had damaged him. He dies. That kind of baits Yon into coming back to the wave just as Puppy K is roaming up on Anivia, and so they still pull off the dive. Meanwhile, now it's a race for first turret bonus. Foreman will win that one for Vietnam, with Singapore soon to follow.
Yep, should be able to trade here, but that early gold does go over to Volmund, who's starting to get pretty aggressive around the map if those first few levels weren't enough of an indication.
Honestly, that was extremely creative by Mature there, rocking into the turret. I'm going to give him credit as far as trying to bait it in instead of just a lapse of judgment. Here we go, though. Now we're in a world where Vietnam have a 500 gold lead. Their bottom lane actually free up to roam as Alistar now has a real flash ready for himself as well. Waiting in the brush, though, means that no one will overextend.
Yeah, quick Moby boots there from High does mean that he's going to look to play pretty well around these lanes, try and force pressure out. But you will also just briefly swap back. Looks like he's going to the top side again.
Yeah, with these turrets traded, now we have a desynced map for themselves here. And they're putting Yon down to the bottom side on the Ornn. His teleport still long cooldown left here. Remember, this is the 6-minute teleport that we're working with. And it is going to be teleport advantage. Oh, here we go.
Nice shockwave. That's a flash though from Puppy K. Gets out from under the chains of corruption. High was trying to start a play, but 3 members of Singapore lining up first.
Have to be very wary of the skill shots coming out of the bottom lane of Singapore. A lot of crowd control. Now they're going to need a black shield to get him out, though.
Oh, actually, do manage to land the pulverize, but not really too eventful. Ari Kellick, no shockwave, but is still harassing down the Alistar, who does have ulti and flash, so High 3 should be safe.
All right, they've swapped Varus up to the top side as Quake pushes out the wave, and they have a bit of protection for him here because there isn't deep enough vision. They actually have Eternal walking and being in a walking ward here for themselves as the jungler, trying to provide that support and allow the marksman to farm up and get the much needed minions kills to be able to upgrade into his Ghost Blade, start getting that lethality to come through for the poke.
Yeah, on the other side, that one kill for Artemis there, actually giving him a bit of extra gold, and he's quickly finished the Blade of the Ruined King. Eternal also on a ward. Here is Artemis.
Can he steal this Gromp, though?
Maybe got vision. I think he wants the kill. Actually went onto Eternal first, but he does also steal the Gromp away.
Yeah, he's going to go aggressive before it's in smite range to make sure he doesn't get that one first. Chases him off, able to clean it up afterwards, and he also has Alistar coming to defend this turret, but a lot of damage being dealt.
Might have more than his Alistar High over the wall. Does have a ward, but Eternal walks away. Great dodge on the binding there from the Lucian dash. As you can see, it was both Foreman and Puppy K also coming up to try and start something. It looks like their waves may be getting pushed. No, actually, Machua's in mid lane. A pretty extensive rotation here for Vietnam.
Yeah, they've got a lot of vision set up here in the river as well, seeing this movement coming. So Ari Kellick he knows that he has to play very far back because he's seen the rest of them moving. Now he's going to chase him off and forces a flash.
That was a really nice flash from Vorma, but he did have to burn it, unfortunately. with the shockwave incoming.
Here comes Yon on the orange, ready to set it up.
Bowman can't quite extend into the flash to do that play now. Puppy K is going to get jumped on. Soul Shackles do latch on. Now in egg form, needs to be resurrected, but I don't think it's going to be enough time. Bowman, though, does take out Yon on the other side of the play, but it's a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, the tank does go down. He has teleport for when he gets back up, and this is an Infernal Drake with Lucian still top lane. They can start this up, and Singapore do have the Infernal Drake leash. Let's see if they actually go for the smite fight here.
No TP there for this Lucian, so Artemis is going to have to stay there and push. Here's High, though, looking for initiation. Bowman baiting him in. Mature getting some poke down.
Yon almost alive, and his teleport again is ready on the orange, so he can join this. They could bait them into the 5v4 team fight. They'd rather just kill the dragon first, though.
Yeah, Quake's here as well. I think they're just trying to get a 50-50 smite if they can. Bowman maybe going to look in, but he can't quite get it. Puppy Gate TP'd in aggressive as Mature. Already going to get knocked in by Eternal, but there's some good pull. Finds two. Mature does get a kill, and it's so chaotic here in the fight. Quake, he popped the stasis, but it looks like he might get picked off. No, instead flashes out of the way. Bowman now low. That's going to be everyone else from Vietnam running out of there.
There's no egg on Puppy K. If he's able to get caught, then they might be able to take him down. Walks away from the wall to dodge the stun.
Yep, Yon does get out of the way. Oh, great wall. Might keep him safe here. Stun's also going to land the Black Shield just a hair too late by Morgana.
Pops it right there from the Anivia. They do have an inside track, but he's finally able to get himself out. During that whole time, Artemis on the Lucian was pushing on top side. He was able to take the turret for himself. So that's kind of payment for your Infernal Drake. In Singapore, while they do have a 2-dragon league, Vietnam still with a big gold lead.
Puppy K again trying to make the play. The stun's massive into the Shock Blast combo. Mature grabs one. Now Yon going to be the next one in trouble. Does get himself dashing out under the turret to safety, but Vietnam with a really nice exit kill.
Yep, going to be able to get some more gold for their pockets here, and that will be able to keep up the siege. Jace comes right over. Ghostblade has been completed, so those shock blasts will be doing decent amount of damage. Trying to whittle away.
Hex Flash, hello, surprise! Ari Kalik is going to be the target. Two-man pulse. Artemis takes down Ari Kalik. And now the dive still continuing. Yon can't re-engage that ulti, so the turret's going to fall. And Vietnam with a wonderful dive, pick up 2 kills and the turret.
They're able to push the tempo here. More gold again. And now they're going to have to try and calm this game down for the side of Singapore if they want to retake control. So much wards being left down here through the red quadrant of the jungle, as well as the Rift Herald being started up.
Kind of threw it all. As you look back at the gold lead, it felt like there was some back and forth, but Vietnam actually up 5,000 gold thanks to mostly that turret lead. And the Rift Herald is not going to make that any easier. Up in kills by 4 as well. It just feels like Vietnam starting to get maybe a little bit out of control here in the mid game.
Well, they definitely have champions that they can push the tempo with here. Go for the dives like we just saw here with Alistar. Hex Flash over the wall. They have Camille for diving. And this time around, if they get some picks, they can take a lot of turrets with the Rift Herald. Here's another look at the replay, though. Big stun comes up. They're able to jump on the DPS after he's down, knocking Yon out of the way so he can't even reactivate his ultimate. And finishing off the turret afterwards. Make that one look pretty clean. So Vietnam, very big gold lead for themselves, but Singapore have the dragons if they can try and stall for later and start to play a little bit more safe. What they would want to do right now, set up some defensive vision. They need to buy some more control wards for themselves so that they can see these Vietnam plays coming as they set up and look for more possible dives.
Starting a little bit behind on gold and of course items as a result. First completed item not quite there yet for the mid laner, and Mature is going to make that gold lead stretch just a bit further as he takes down the bottom outer turret, because of course Artemis did get the tier 2 in the former trade. Vormod also still holding onto that Rift Herald. I'm expecting a play somewhere, maybe bot side with the waves coming, but we'll see what they want to do here. High and Vormod sticking together, looking for a pick.
Uh-oh, we might have another knock up here. They're going to back out of this one with the Nivea on top side. No teleport is ready.
Tactical sweep. Oh, not quite over the wall. Good angle there for Eternal. Not quite rewarded, unfortunately. And that Mature roaming back in. A lot of poke going to the Alistar. Vormod maybe fancies a go.
Yeah, with everybody from Singapore in the bottom jungle here, they've lost control of the minion waves as Anivia pushing top side and Lucian pushes up mid side. It opens up for a quick rotation here from Vietnam. They're using the Rift Herald as well to try and take the turret.
Pretty brazen channel right in front of the tower, but they're just going to try and get there as soon as possible. Want the maximum damage. There's a good shockwave there by Ari Kalik. Puppy K.
2v1.
Trying to get out of there. Decked again. Artemis goes in. Good watch. Eternal now here, maybe going to turn it back around, but Ari Kalik, he goes down. Puppy K, he's going to be the trade as Eternal takes him, but I think Artemis has this 1v1, diving in under the turret. He's so strong on Illusion. There's the double kill.
Yep, double kill, double buffs, and 4 now for Artemis. He's got alone time with the turret. Quake is going to come through and forces the flash with his ultimate, though, as everyone else from Vietnam has already backed off the base.
Vietnam's pace starting to pick up really heavily here in this one. Gold lead ticking up about 7,000 gold ahead now. And Singapore, I can see what they're doing. They're trying to get their team fight comp together, try and force some fights as five, but Vietnam playing the little skirmishes really well and also playing the map. So even though Singapore are grouping to try and get stuff done, Vietnam already have the play started on the other side.
Yeah, Vietnam looking one step ahead here with the constant dives and pressuring of these minion waves. They constantly have people pushing them up, and they're able to outplay and get away after that. Huge pickup here. Actually, with those kills, Artemis bought a full black cleaver on back. So it's now the famed 2-item power spike for Lucian. He's a little bit tanky, has a little bit of extra health and a lot more cooldown reduction to allow him to utilize that relentless pursuit.
Nice binding, gonna go in. There's Black Shield, Black Body Slam. Goodbye, Artemis. Shut down by the support Rapier. And Eternal there with a nice play. Now, actually, the extension here, looking for the Alistar, is just going to get knocked around to the bouncy castle. And goodbye, support picks up 2.
Singapore strike back here with 2 kills onto the bottom lane. Now they need to make something of this. They're trying to push on mid with their numbers advantage. Anivia, though, is so good at wave clear. He's got plenty of mana for himself. Seraph's trying to transform. Vormund probably doesn't want to start this one out until they have a teleport or something ready, because it's 4 members of Singapore moving up mid.
Jay's coming up. There could be a 3v4. Going to try and bait them in under the turret. Vormund, here he comes. Probably came with the early watch. And onto Rapier. That's the what the one, but it goes into stasis himself. Also a TP in. Gonna get Yon in to make sure everything's a-okay. Oh, gonna get procced. Who will get the knockup, but actually might be able to follow in. Not quite enough damage to charge on there, but the body slam is barely going to miss. Mature is forced to flash away as well. He'll run out, but again, a bind finds yet another target, this time Puppy K.
Everyone for Vietnam has revived, and they're back out to the fight, trying to chase off Singapore. Retreating through the river.
Straight with the calling, not many ults left on Singapore, but Ari Kalik with the brush cap. Shuts down Vormund. Now going to have to flash out of the way, but Puppy K so far forward. He goes down as well, but still Vietnam fighting. So aggressive in these exchanges.
That Nivea flank into the back line to find the kill was super aggressive. He does get punished for it, and Singapore come out 2 for 1 on the exchange.
Well, again, maybe have a moment of calm here for just a few seconds as Vietnam do kind of regroup and maybe look to get their vision over. Drake is also up. Singapore with 2 already. They could look to add a 3rd to their collection. We're going to have to wait for these respawn timers, though. Singapore certainly fighting back, but again, Vietnam always in the right place at the right time.
And Vietnam, really powerful pick here with the Anivia as far as clearing out those minion waves in defensive positions, allowing the rest of the team, push up very aggressively and try and get those side lanes going. Right now, as you said, the Dragon is coming up, though. That has not been the focus for Vietnam. They've been full steam ahead, trying to dismantle the base of Singapore. But this time around, they might want to utilize the vision they've got set up, and take the neutral objective first.
Yeah, turrets and team fights, pretty much the story here for Vietnam, although we'll now add the Ocean Drake in, because why not? Like you said, not a lot of map for Singapore to really play on right now. Vormund will finish that one off. Vietnam will continue their assault of pretty much all 3 lanes. Done a really good job managing the waves and applying pressure very intelligently, and I think you can tell with the pace of their plays, they're looking to find a pick and just really snowball through this game.
Meanwhile, on the side of Singapore, they've done a good job playing defensively here with the rest of the members. If they can bring all of their crowd control together, they have been able, carve out wins in these 5-on-5 skirmishes that have developed over the map. Problem is, they have to deal with so much side lane pressure. Minions on top, and that is an exposed Varus. Quake has to back off and respect the possibility of Camille engage.
Does manage to get safely back into the forest, so looks to be okay for now. But I agree, Kobe, Singapore maybe one good Baron setup or fight, have the game break another way, but again, such intelligent pressure here. Mature splitting down bot with the TP ready. Vormund just hoping somebody walks into a stupid position and gives him a kill.
They want to use their teleport advantage here, keeping Jace pressure on bottom side, allowing for a 5v4 situation. Baron's down to 6,000 health in Singapore. Not too many answers.
Such a nice wall. Black Shield Eternal's trying to get in there. but High3 is willing to sacrifice his life to keep the jungler out of there. He gets the pole, that's Baron Vietnam, and in fact the Asta might not even die. He does live! Oh my goodness, finally down as Mature dives into the try and kill Aurikelic, but that shutdown gold given over to the Orianna. Maybe a bit too aggressive as Ropey again pops into stasis, but I think it's going to be good night still. There's the knuckle back. Vorman though, he dodges it. What a play! He gets 2, finds a double, maybe gonna make it 3. As Yon looks to go down as well. Singapore just don't have it, and Vorman makes a massive play.
Baron and the ace for Vietnam, and now they've got the Baron buff to push with afterwards. This is gonna be a huge amount of destruction to the Singapore base.
Yeah, welcome to the 10,000 gold lead. Vietnam have just pushed the pace of this game time and time again. But now it looks like mid inhibitor will be the first one to fall. And that gold lead is looking rough for the Singapore side.
Game number 1, explosive here between Vietnam and Singapore. Now with a huge lead here for Vietnam. They can reset after taking down the inhibitor turret to look for the second push. This Baron buff still has plenty of time left on it.
Well, Inhibitor did stay up in mid lane. That's kind of the end of the good news, as this was such a well set up Baron by Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, you can see Eternal was trying to get close enough there on the Gragas to find a way into the pit. He threw his cast for the Hail Mary attempt at a steal, but in the end, Singapore looking for the re-engage here. Rapier a little bit far above the rest of the team, and with Aurikelic so low already, hard for him to enter the fight. You can see Vorman there, gets the double kill on the 2 carries by himself, and then even with the charge in, still stays alive. And rest of Vietnam now back out on the map, looking to press the advantage.
You can see why they first picked it. This guy is going off in game number 1. Trinity Force already done. Team out Wario building up to his 3rd item pretty quickly, and don't worry, the rest of Vietnam with a lot of gold as well. Trying the brush camp, not bad, but can't quite find the angle. High3 and Vorman do split. Eternal used the cask already. There's the re-engage in from High. He's popped the ulti. Shockwave is good hits too, but it's kind of frontline. Vorman again going in. Does get the kill, but he will go down.
Jace was split pushing that entire time on bottom side, but now he's joined.
Mature does so much damage. Almost chunking out Quake in one little shock blast. Artemis also pressuring. He already dashed. He's getting very aggressive. 1v3 under the tower. He finds a snipe with a Q. Now just fighting. He's literally taking the turret. Finally takes it down. 1v3 plus the turret. Artemis is insane. He gets the triple kill.
And the turret kill as well. That counts as 4, Pastry. The rest of the base is under attack as well. Vietnam will leave no one left.
It's complete disaster in the base of Singapore here. Vietnam taking almost every inhib, make it 2, and they rush straight for the Nexus. We heard how fast the games were at a Hyperplay in the 2 months leading up to the event, and Vietnam, your potential tournament favorites, are showing why.
Game number 1 here in the favor of Vietnam. Early action for them, pressing on all lanes. And they're able to find the victory just 25 minutes into the game.
And we heard it from the analyst desk. Usually teams have, a couple carries, maybe 3. Vietnam, it seems like here at Hyperplay, have 5. Everybody had a montage moment that game.
Well, they keep up constant pressure as well, pushing out the minion wave so that when they create these plays, they have a couple of different fallback patterns to go for, and they make it very difficult for the enemy team to keep up with the pace of the game that they're setting.
Yeah, and still exactly, that's the thing I really love about their play. Not only are they willing to, do the right thing and manage your waves and go for the objectives and all that macro stuff that gets boring sometimes, they're also willing to be aggressive and just force the
outplays
fights.
under a turret, Pastry.
No, that was great. That's the kind of League of Legends I need more of. So hopefully there's more of that coming up. But to hear more about Vietnam's Game 1 win, we're going to send it over to our analysts.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. We're going to break down this game as fast as we can here because that was an exciting matchup. And it all started from picks and bans where we saw something different at Hyperplay this time round. Tanks were being picked up by Team Singapore. Plenty of tanks, and every single position for their squad had crowd control.
Yeah, that's right. Singapore almost shoehorned into that after the Yasuo ban came out. And we were talking with another local analyst, Jensen J Storm Go, and he was pointing out how the Camille pick was just such a good one, the Jace as well, denying so much power that could have come out of Yon. So not that many bans going his way, but the picks absolutely shut him out with a lot of power that he could have brought to the table.
Also pointing out that this strategy was something that is very commonly used in Vietnam, especially in the VCS. So seems like Sky Gaming has been able to lend their sister team a strategy or two coming into Hyperplay.
And we had a lot of questions about Vietnam because they were playing with the new top laners, and Darius was their big go-to guy for the ganks. It looks like it's going to be the same thing with Mature and with Mormon. Still camping the top super hard, getting multiple kills into the top lane, including that 200 IQ bait. Mature plays, hashtag.
Yeah, we call it a 200 IQ bait, Clement. I'm not quite sure if that was intentional, but speaking of Vorman, he had an impressive game, and he started with ganks on the bottom side of the map, where he was able to escape the vision set up by Singapore, and made sure that Vietnam were off to a good start in the bottom lane.
Yeah, we saw right there he just dodges the Scuttle Crab vision, and then right here, you can see how far up Singapore was pushed because they thought, we've got the Scuttle Crab. That should keep us safe, but Vorman, it's not even the mechanics he busted out right there, but just the presence of mind to go that path all the way around, sidestepping the Scuttle Crab, totally taking the bottom lane by surprise. I mean, that hurts me to see as a Singaporean, but as a League of Legends player, I gotta say, A+ for jungling right there.
And to set Artemis up for success as well. We'll touch on him a little bit later on because immediately after the ganks, we saw Singapore show their strategy. They were able to set up for back-to-back elemental dragons, picking up a nice clean ocean dragon with teleport being used by Owen to get there, as well as the infernal dragon later on. This is what we expected from Team Singapore because they have the leadership as well as the coaching from Coach Omo to set them up for plays like this.
And this is what you want when you're running the Ornn versus Jace matchup. A beautiful flash coming in from Yoon to pin the Lucian to the wall and punish that early aggression coming out from Vietnam. Guys, I think I've cracked the Vietnam code, and their motto is to go as greedy as possible. A lot of their plays, they're playing the 4v5s and they have someone out there split pushing, they're still willing to take the team fights and then bank on themselves to get something on the other side of the map as well.
If you're talking about Vietnam being greedy, they were diving towers after towers, but you can't really call it greed when it was working. Even Hex Blast being picked up by Alistar allowed him to go for some unique tower dives, and yes, Singapore from time to time were losing members to some odd ganks here and there or missed positions. Every time Vietnam found a chance to capitalize on that, they did.
Yeah, absolutely. This Alistar pick being so huge right there. Hex Flash looking good, pops right in with the combo to lock up the entire team. And I have to say, Vietnam is one of the only two teams of the semi-finalists to actually play this Alistar. They're making it look really good. It's enabling so many plays that's yet another wrench in the works that Singapore will have to consider when they go into the ban phase. This is what we were talking about before the game. There's so many things on the side of Vietnam. Where do you choose to, what kind of power can you actually take away from them? So many options.
Yeah, I think you have to match them out mechanically to even stand up a chance. In Vietnam, they're not only good at pushing the buttons, they're also really good at timing things. The play you saw right there was because the Gragas explosive ultimate was not there. They know when to go on good timings, and unlike a lot of teams that just try to barrel down at you 5v5, they also understand how to split up and play the side lane. So this is actually a very, no pun intended, but mature team that we're looking at from Vietnam.
And Vietnam were able to set up the strategy, but it was still very Hyperplay-esque. It's still very bloody, almost a kill per minute in that match. And it seems like their strategy is to be completely aggressive in these games, and that's what they showed against Singapore in Game 1. We really need to highlight Artemis, though. We talked about him before this match. There were not once, but twice where we saw him outplay multiple members.
This guy's looking absolutely
from the
beastly.
Singapore squad. He is amazing. He looks like one of the star players for Vietnam.
Yeah, he is the main carry of the team, has the most kills right there, and I think a lot of it does start from the lane phase. If you look at how they play lane, they never actually go back. They're always hiding in the bush and see if you're going to come out to try and take the next wave. They did that multiple times off of ganks. Pure mechanics we see from him is also just amazing in team fights.
Set up from the very first gank, Mark. That's where Vorman tried to attack at the beginning of the game, making sure Artemis was set up for success later on.
That was heartbreaking because in terms of CS score, you could see that the Morgana and Varus were actually pushing them in very, very hard. But Clement said, they have the guts to stay in the lane really, really long. And then, of course, the overconfidence, the false safety that you think you have with that CS lead, all of that's just shattered in a moment when Vorman visits the lane and gets Artemis ahead. And he absolutely ran away with that lead. Amazing plays coming out of this guy.
And it's not just Vorman that's been able to set up Artemis for success. You talked about Mature early on, getting the ganks for him to top lane. Crucial for Jace, because that's something we saw come out from the Philippines in our first semi-finals. But they weren't able to set up their Jace for success. Vietnam were able to do so, and we saw how devastating it is when Jace is ahead. He just has too much damage that the backline of Singapore couldn't deal with him. even when he was diving into the back lines.
Yeah, and he was playing the team fights very well as well, like keeping to the side lanes, throwing poke out, and always staying in the fight. I think that's a big thing about the Vietnamese squad. They're never really going, they're never really recalling all at the same time. They keep the action going, they keep it live, and then they're piling in when you think the fight's about to stop.
And then on top of that, Singapore tried to fight back. They tried to stop the snowball effect that came out from Vietnam, and they almost did. They stopped the bleeding at least. They were about 6,000 gold behind halfway through, but they tried again at Baron. They got a good fight for themselves. But not only did Baron go to Vietnam, but they also won the fight on the back half of it.
Yeah, I mean, they did such a good job denying Eternal entry to the Baron pit. The whole team effort. Right here, you have to question a little bit why Rapier's stepping back up. But in just a moment's time, we're going to see Vorman absolutely style. You know, he goes in on his own, dodges the Ornn ultimate, takes out Arcalic, who we've highlighted as the player of the tournament. Just, where do these guys find, you know, the skills to do it? It looks so good.
I mean, we saw Rapier try to make that Hail Mary play. That's what we expect out of the veteran. He knew that that was the point where Singapore had to put up their last stand. If not, it was definitely going to be Vietnam's game to take.
I would say not really, but we still have to hype on Vorman. That play was absolutely sick because he killed both solo laners with one move. Dodged out on the ultimate coming out from the Ornn, landed Tiamat, and then killed the Orianna without even using an auto attack. This is what they're facing, and that's the mismatch that Singapore and Vietnam have. You have Vorman on one side styling on people, and then you have Internal.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very tough for the Singaporean team, which also raises question marks as to why they would pick a slow laner like Orianna. And you know, because Arcalic, we've highlighted him as the player of the tournament even. He's absolutely able to find solo kills on his own, but Orianna is so slow. And when you go up against a team like Vietnam that's finding 13-minute wins, you know, maybe that's an outlier, but still 21-minute wins for them on average. Why would you put him on such a slow champion? So I know that they want to fight team fight-wise. That is what Singapore was going for, but it's not working for them.
No.
And Vietnam is totally outpacing them.
Something has to change because Vietnam were incredibly quick in that first match. They're able to take it to Singapore, and with that quick match, we're actually going to step away for a short break. But when we return, it's game 2 between Singapore and Vietnam. And after the action is finished, what everyone's been waiting for, MTV Spotlight continues with a performance by one of the first Asian female artists to hit the Billboard Hot 100 CL. Stay with us.